This trash can sucks.
Okay, it's on. So you can just describe the differences between your country.
Just look at the camera, right?
Yeah,
I can
you
look
don't
at-
you don't need to look. You just look at me. It's
Okay.
So the differences between your country and the United States in general and on campus.
Okay, so in general, Israel has more trash cans on the street as well as recycling bins or recycling stations. So you have usually the stations is where you have plastic bags and plastic bottles because they're bigger, so it looks like really big cages on the street, and it's just for recycling. It's something that here I noticed that more in Boston you have recycling bins. They're a little more common. In Malden, for example, where I live, is not common at all, not for recycling and not for a trash can. On campus, the difference here is that in Israel we didn't have recycling awareness at all, so we just had trash cans. Here at Suffolk, I think it's very good that you have next to every trash can you have also a recycling bin. I do think that many people aren't taking advantage of that. So I think it's more about the awareness of students about that it's there and that they can use it. They should use it.
So which one do you think is? I mean, in your country, I just focus on campus.
Mhm.
So do you think Suffolk is better than your country's recycling system on campus, just the college?
Well, I graduated from college like 5 years ago, so they might have changed things.
Okay.
But I do think that at least compared to the way it was back when I was a student there, I think the system here now is better.
Okay.
Because when I have if I'm just throwing away paper, then I'm going to use the recycling bin. So I think it's much more accessible. It's much more convenient. Yeah. So.
Any recommendations for the Suffolk recycling improvement? Sorry. So.
You keep the plasmid?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So, do you have any recommendation about how to improve Suffolk?
I think just
Sorry for that.
let him finish first.
Anyone coming? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I think my recommendation is for Suffolk to increase awareness among students about the recycling system here. And I think the way to do it is through having a talk with students when they come to campus first. Well, for starters, I noticed that in the library many times students come here just for a tour. So that when they want to see.
So can I just record here? This way. Sorry. It's okay, don't worry. Just here.
Yeah, it's on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. You're gonna have to do a lot of editing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I noticed that when there are tour guides that they show prospective students the campus, they can talk about the recycling system here. Another way is that when students actually come here to study, we have required orientation. So that's a great place for the university to talk about recycling and increase awareness. Because as you mentioned before, we get all these emails about not just recycling, just different topics. Like we get so many of them, so it's hard to keep track. And sometimes, like when there are optional workshops or optional talks, then people just they don't have time. So you might as well make the most out of the time that students are required to be on campus and attend the session. So I think it's easier to use those resources in order to increase awareness and get more people involved in the cause.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, you don't need to look at camera. You can
Okay.
just look at
Look at her.
Yeah.
Andrew.
So
Hi, pretty Andrew.
our first question is do you recognize some differences of recycling system in United States or I mean in Suffolk University and in India?
Actually, I was not very aware about the recycling happening at Suffolk. It's only until someone had mentioned in the class the recycling happens, and then I started noticing those bins, the recycle bins which are kept in the library and on the way as well. And back in India, we never had this concept. Like, I'm sure it does exist, recycling, but we never paid attention to that at all. It's just that, after coming to the US, I read so many articles, or, I came across so many articles about recycling and like the awareness they're spreading over here, basically. And I think they're doing a good job over here, definitely. In fact, so many times I have gone and returned so many the plastic bottles, the soda bottles after drinking, like once it gets over. A lot of times I have given it back, and I have become like pretty aware about this, and I try to contribute how much ever I can towards this thing currently. And maybe to get more awareness, like among students, if you want to get more students to recycle, I would say is that keep an incentive program. I think that's the best. Instead, like, let's say they've given like 100 papers, like the papers which they would normally throw, but if they recycle those same papers, probably they get a coupon for a free pizza or something, anything, a soda, a pizza, a coffee, a Starbucks coupon, something like that. Some incentive programs which would make students feel, oh yeah, I should,
Mm-hmm.
not for recycling exactly, but oh yeah, I'm gonna get a free Starbucks coffee today. So probably that's why they should.
Do you think Suffolk universities, is it necessary for them to open recycling 101 classes for all the graduate and undergraduate students at the first semester when they enter the college?
Not exactly recycling program, but something a very similar program like green and sustainable business what we are studying.
So
Because, but maybe in that curriculum, if they like the curriculum would cover some on recycling, that would be great. But not overall a whole class on recycling, because then I don't think it'll be that popular. Because in some part you cover this thing, it does make sense, but not an entire class on this thing. I would say,
okay.
like.
Do you have any recommendations for how to improve the recycling?
I mean, they are doing a great job. That's what I feel currently. It's just that the incentive-based program I said, they will get more people to contribute towards this. They should like just work on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you for help us taking the interview today. And our first question is: did you recycle at home, and where you learned the recycling knowledge before?
Yeah, so growing up, we didn't have like a regular recycling pattern. In college, one roommate I lived with for a year, she was really big in recycling, so I did it that year. And that was probably the most knowledge I gained about recycling, living with my roommate, because she had the different separate containers in the apartment. And then here at Suffolk, on occasion I do recycling. I don't have it in my apartment, but we're doing an interview. Sorry. I don't really do recycling in my apartment, but I'll see different papers and places like that around campus, and so I'll do it there.
So how do you feel like about the recycling program here at Suffolk, and do you have any suggestion or recommendation about it?
I think the there could be a greater awareness for the recycling program here, which is appropriate for what you guys are doing. I am an art student, and so I do graphic design, and that's a lot of paper that we go through. And so over at NESAD, in that building where all the art classes are, we have a lot, like almost every single corner, there's something for recycling paper, which I think is a really good idea since we go through a whole lot with a lot of test prints. So I think NESAD does a good job with recycling paper. As far as the other buildings in the university, probably they could step it up a little bit with having recycling bins or making it obvious, like this is for paper or plastic or metal.
Okay, so next question is, do you think we should have a recycling 101 class or some other class, or we should include the recycling knowledge in our orientation for our new students?
I think that's actually a really neat suggestion to do it that way, because in orientation, you're introducing new students to Suffolk University, and you're making them aware of things like Graduate Student Association or all these different ways that they can be involved. But then you're also providing them with a map, so you're just giving them information about the university. So why not have a small part of that orientation be centered at recycling and giving awareness of what Suffolk University offers in that regard?
Okay, thank you.
All right, no problem.
So thank you for taking the interview with us today. And so our first question is, what's the recycling knowledge you learned from your country? Do you think there's something different between the Japan and the United States about recycling?
I found that the Japanese recycling system is more restricted than in the US. And for example, I'm living in Olison. I put all garbage in the one bag and then throw it away. But in my country, we have to divide separate all like garbage such as bean can, like carbon like boxes or something like that. And so my country is more strict.
Okay, so do you think like Suffolk University have a good recycling project, or do you recycle on campus?
I think it's good. For example, like they put like paper on the like wall, and I see the like notice everywhere, and also like I can notice they have two kinds of boxes, bin boxes, and so I can like separate the recycle one or just garbage. But sometimes I can't find two boxes. So in that case, I think I just ignore the whatever it is to recycle or not. And also, for example, I always use goes to the cafe, Suffolk Cafe, and buy salad. And that the container is recycled, but sometimes I can't eat everything. In that case, I feel I should throw this away to the recycle bin or just garbage bin. So I'm a little bit, sometimes I'm a little bit confused.
Okay, so do you have any recommendation or suggestion about the Suffolk recycling project?
I actually, why Suffolk do the recycling things, so I don't know what's the target. So if they show like a target, it's maybe like it's better to share with students. Also, if like there are more garbage bins and recycle bins, it's more helpful to like separate those things.
Okay, so our last question is: do you feel like we should include the recycling information in the for the international students or for all new students in their orientation, or should we have the recycling 101 class for all new students?
If I actually when I attended the post orientation, I didn't hear about recycling things, anything. But if I've heard it in advance, like I feel, Suffolk University is really focused on this project. So it's good for like motivate students, I think. So I think it's a good idea to someone introduce about their recycling project.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the interview with us.
Thank you. So I just want to ask, do you recognize some differences about recycling system in Brazil and in United States, or specifically in college? I mean,
in universities,
Yes.
I mean, yes, it is completely different. For example, here I see that you have like recyclables,
Mhm.
mixed recyclables, right? And then you have the normal trash. In Brazil, it works that you have colors
yeah.
for the trash. For example, the blue one is for paper. Then you have the red one for cans and metals. And then you have like, it is one color for each. I know that there is green and yellow as well, but you have to separate by
Different-
the product, you
Okay.
know, that you are gonna throw away.
So it's in Brazil.
Yes, in Brazil.
So
It's really interesting the way that is displayed, because you know it is like four trash together, and it seems like it looks good in the architecture because it looks like, you know, it seems like a decoration as well,
Okay.
because it's like a rainbow, you know.
Very beautiful
Yeah.
color and very beautiful cans.
Yes, yes. So they can play with it, and they actually in the streets you find them as well, but it's not like recyclable and no recyclable. It's like you have like
Different categories.
Yeah, different categories of recyclables.
So you mean in Brazil the recycling is very efficiency and it's very it's a common sense for everybody, not only for college student, right?
I mean, it is in companies they do that, but the toughest part is because we have like a big diversity.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we have like really distinct classes. For example, or you have like the high class or the low class or middle class. Now it's becoming higher, the percentage of middle class, but it's still really big, the difference between classes.
Okay.
So, for example, maybe like in a class A, class B, and class C, the new middle class, you can find that it's really efficient, the recycling program. But however, in the lower class, it's not as efficient.
Okay. And do you satisfied with Suffolk, the university's recycling system? Do you think they are doing a very good job, or they are just have some potential to improve?
I think that they are doing a good job, especially in the bathrooms that they have the signs
Mm-hmm.
saying, you know, like you could have recycled that. We found how much, like they say a quantity that could have been recycled.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they are doing a good job, but always you have room for improvement, right?
Yes,
in everything
exactly.
in life. But I think that, you know, like the signs, I think that it's a good way to educate students as well about recycling.
And you just said that the university has a very good staff, have a very good system, but as we researched, there are the student recycling awareness and the engagement are not very high. So do you have any recommendations to improve the awareness and
I think that the recommendation that I would have is like they do have the signs in the bathrooms.
Mhm.
If they could put the signs
bigger?
in other locations as well, for example, especially in the computer lab,
Okay.
in the 5th floor,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like it's a place that you are working with paper all the time and you don't even realize that you are not recycling. They should have a place, you know, like a trash can to recycle. In the computer lab, the university doesn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, you know, like more signs, because it's like a thing that it's like an education process as well, right?
Yeah, and do you think it's necessary for international students to learn something about recycling in the orientation week, or we know in orientation week we have our international student are taught a lot of stuff. Do you think recycling is should be considered in that part or no?
I think it's not a matter of just about international students. I think that, you know, like the community, I know that we have a big international community here in Suffolk, but I think that it's a matter to generalize and maybe to do like a week green, you know, like for the students and telling them, you know, or maybe a lecture about sustainability and energy efficient and everything that the university is trying to do to help the world. I mean, you know, like I think that it's a big part from the university to educate, especially undergrads that are more, you know, like I think that they are more
young.
They are younger, so they are easier to change the mentality.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you for taking the interview with us today. So the first question is, did you ever recycle back to China?
Not at all, because the government doesn't build such infrastructure to support recycling. Although you can see some recycle box or trash can, but after that you can separately, for example, put bottle in one specific recycling can, but put the other thing in the other cans. But the reality is, after that, they still put them together, bury them together. So there's no there's no follow-up infrastructures to help them to help the people to recycle.
Okay, so do you recycle here on campus, or do you think your recycle hobbies changed after you come to the United States?
If there's some recycled cans, trash cans, I will definitely go with recycling. I will put different things into different places. But if there's just one trash can, I will put everything in it.
Okay, so how do you think about our recycling project at Suffolk University? Do you have any recommendation or suggestion about that?
Maybe you have to put bigger sign, or do some promotions, or generate some discussions or some competitions to help students or people to increase their awareness of the recycling.
Okay, so do you think it's necessary to include the recycle knowledge in our orientation, or having a recycle 101 class for all new students?
Just one-time classes or the discussing on orientation, that is not enough, because you know recycling is a habit. First of all, you have to have the infrastructures to help them to do the recycling. Second, you have to give them the information constantly. You have to remind them to keep the recycling habits. If they don't have the awareness, I don't think just one time it will work.
Okay, so that's all. Thank you.